All right, welcome back to Mr. P Helps with Calculus. This is Unit 2, Day number 9, as we explore product rule and quotient rule. Two very important rules that you're going to need to know for differentiation. Once again, we have a warm-up where basically you just have to be familiar with the format of the question. It says the f prime of x, which means the derivative with the limited as this is the derivative definition of derivative using limit notation. Sorry. This function literally is just sine of x. So the derivative of sine of x, if that is the function, would be cosine of x. And that's just the answer. Done. So if the original function was sine of x, remember this is f prime of x, which means this is the derivative of the original function. This is f of x plus h minus f of x over h. So the original function is sine of x, and therefore we already know that cosine of x is the derivative of sine of x. All right, product rule, something you're going to use a lot in this class. And all this says is that if you take the derivative of two terms that are being multiplied by each other, one being u, one being v, if you multiply them by each other, what you're essentially going to do is multiply each one of these terms by the derivative of the other term. So v, so you just copy term v, times the derivative of whatever u is, plus u times derivative of v. So pretty straightforward. And honestly, since it's addition, I'm one of those people, I actually kind of prefer doing it flipped around. It really doesn't matter. You can flip these around because it's commutative property of addition. And very commonly, I do it backwards to what most calculus teachers will teach you. So very commonly, you're going to see, okay, so I'm forcing myself here to do it the way that most people prefer, which is second term times derivative of the first term plus first term times derivative of the second term. So first term times the derivative of the second term, which is just 3. And then here we have the first term times the derivative of this. d dx, remember, d dx means find the derivative with respect to x of this term. 2 times 5 is 10, and then negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. So from here, it's just a matter of multiplying, distributing each one of these and then simplifying, and then you can get it down to a simple answer. The reason why we have to practice simplifying and doing all this extra work is because you never know what you're going to get in multiple choice. And this is most likely what I would think that they would give you. All right, this one. So we have two terms. We have e to the x and we have cosine of x. Two different terms here. These are being multiplied by each other. So if you're going to find f prime of x, you have to use the product rule. Product rule states that you take in this case, the second term times the derivative of the first, plus the first times the derivative of the second. Well, second term is cosine of x. The derivative of e to the x is itself. And then we have the e to the x times the derivative of cosine of x, which is right here. Both these terms both have e to the x, so we could factor out the e to the x's and then get this answer. Once again, we have no idea what we're going to see on multiple choice. We could see this line, this line, this line even. We just have to be ready for everything, to be honest. All right, same kind of question. So once again, got to break this up into two terms, natural log of x, and this is really x to 1/2 power. So you can see that I started to go back to the way I like to do it. I like to do first term times derivative of the second plus second times derivative of the first. But really, order does not matter. You can take these two answers and just flip them around, and it'll be the exact same thing. And you can see all I did was really just simplify. One more product rule here. First term is sine of x times the second term, which is cosine of x. Pretty straightforward question here. So, okay, I went back to doing it the way that most people do it. So second term times derivative of the first plus first times derivative of the second. And then it's just a matter of simplifying. So we have cosine of x times another cosine of x, cosine squared of x. This times this is negative sine squared of x. I know what you're thinking. This equals 1, but no, it doesn't equal 1. That would have to be addition. This is actually a double angle cosine trig function, trig identity. So this is really cosine of 2x, which is one of those trig identities you do not use very often. All right, so now let's talk about, we have here the quotient rule. All right, takes a little bit more work, but really isn't that much harder. So here we have finding the derivative of u over v. So it's low d high. So the bottom times derivative of the top minus the top times derivative of the bottom. And yes, order does matter this time because it's a subtraction symbol. You cannot flip these around. It's got to be low d high. When I say d high, I mean derivative of the top. Low d high minus high d low over the bottom squared. So the bottom stays the bottom. And to be honest, I usually don't simplify this because I think it's pretty common for AP board to leave questions where this just stays squared. You can't really simplify 99% of the time anyway, so might as well just leave it the way it is. Just leave the bottom squared. So low d high minus high d low over the bottom squared. The bottom term is this, so that's the low times derivative of the top. Okay, apparently I didn't do this question over here. So low times, okay, this needs to be reformatted. So this needs to turn into this to do this question properly, 3x plus 4. Anything to the negative first power is, just flip it to the bottom. This question over here, I guess I just didn't take time to do that in my notes. I'm going to skip it because I just don't have time in the video to do everything. So low times derivative of the top minus top times derivative of the bottom over the bottom squared. And then it's just a matter of simplifying as you go throughout. Once again, it looks like I don't have everything done here, so I'm just going to stick with what I have. Tangent of x is the same thing as sine over cosine. Well, low d high, this is one of those you should just have memorized anyway. Tangent of x is secant of x times secant squared of x. So low times the derivative of the top minus the top times derivative of the bottom. And then over the bottom squared. This simplifies the squared. This all turns into 1, kind of similar to what I just did a second ago, and that's really just 1 over secant squared. 1 over cosine is secant, so 1 over cosine squared of x will be secant squared of x, which we will have to have memorized going forward. And I guess that was the most important parts of quotient rule. Not a whole lot of quotient rule practice there, but mostly the product rule. Thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful day.